there's a new type of client emerging through the advent of NIL. So Dan Johnson, you're going to tell us about that.
Yeah, thank you. I think my mic's on. Yeah, you guys hear me? Yeah. Okay, good. All right, so a little bit about myself is I am a professor at the college, but that's not the only thing. So prior to coming here, I was a college athlete. So I grew up playing sports. I played football, basketball, baseball. Eventually I got into lacrosse, and that became my sport of passion. So with lacrosse, I was a pretty good student athlete. Eventually I got recruited. I played NCAA Division I at the University of Minnesota Duluth. And then from there, I was a broke college kid, so I needed to make some money, and I became a lacrosse referee. And so I did that for 10 years. I started out with little kids, which actually is pretty crazy if you're a parent with little kids that play sports. They yell a lot. And then from there, I worked my way up to high school, college, and then semi-pro. And so during that time, I met a lot of athletes. I met athletes who played lacrosse as their primary sport and would go pro. I met a lot of secondary. It was their secondary sport. Maybe they turned pro in, say, basketball or football. So, for example, Greg Jennings, his kids played lacrosse. He used to referee his kids. Rick Spielman used to be the former Vikings executive. His kids, they went to Ohio State and Nebraska. So I had a chance to referee them. So I've been around these individuals for a long time. So this is a topic that I have a lot of interest in. And so what is the NIL and why should you care about it? Well, NIL stands for name, image, and likeness. And this is a rule that the NCAA has had for a long time that essentially did not allow athletes and entertainers to profit off of their name, their image, and their likeness. Well, this has all changed recently. And it's created a whole new window of opportunity, a whole new niche of clientele for advisors to work with. And it's especially important because many of these athletes, they're never going to turn pro. Less than 1% of them actually will make it to the pro level. So they have this short window of opportunity from their freshman year to their senior year to potentially earn thousands, if not millions of dollars. And so as advisors, we have to preserve that income for them going well into the future. And as you all know, sports is a very integral part of our society. Many of us have played sports. We have kids that play sports. Maybe we're weekend warriors currently and still play some sports. So with that being said, the NAI rule, like I said, prohibited athletes from making money. Well, this was very controversial, and a lot of people felt this was unfair. Why should the NCAA make billions of dollars every year and athletes make nothing? Me, when I was in college, I didn't make any money. I worked at the school kitchen. I was a referee. I had an athletic scholarship. I had an academic scholarship, but I couldn't be sponsored by Nike or Under Armour or anything like that. So eventually this grew, this controversy, and California stepped in. So in 2019, California enacted the Fair Act to Play. And this essentially allowed college athletes to start making money through endorsements. And a lot of other states quickly joined in. So now we've got all these states with all these different rules allowing their athletes to make money. Well, the NCAA was under a lot of pressure. And so finally they said, okay, you know what? You guys can go make money. We're going to adopt our rule. We're going to say, schools, coaches, you can't pay your athletes, but these athletes can go out and sign private endorsement deals. So stuff that athletes can do now. Sign endorsement deals, do charity events. They can work for small private businesses as marketing their products. So this is a huge, huge opportunity. And so with that being said, there's a lot of trends that are happening now. First off, the first big trend is you're seeing the large schools and sports. So this is men's college football, men's basketball, women's basketball. They're making money like crazy off this, these athletes, okay? They're signing multi-million-dollar deals. They're becoming millionaires at, say, the age of 17, 18 years old. It's pretty crazy to think about. But it's not just these big markets that are cashing in. It's also the small markets too, and niche sports. So lacrosse, that's a niche sport. Women's hockey, women's field hockey, equestrian. Actually, equestrian with the horses, that's the 5th highest generating revenue sport, and those athletes are making millions now. Pretty crazy. But it's not just those people that are benefiting. It's also female athletes and athletes of color that are benefiting. So traditionally, the male athletes, they earn the most amount of money, and the females, they earn substantially less. Well, now because of NIL, they're making a lot of money. Take, for example, women are the largest consumers of beauty products, hair, makeup, clothing. So what those companies are doing is they're hiring these female athletes to be brand ambassadors, okay? Because they're relatable. Women see these female athletes and they think, I like them. I relate to them. I'm going to buy that product. But that's not the only thing. NIL is also trickling down to middle school and high school. So take, for example, I read a story the other day. This football player in Texas, he was a middle schooler. He just got a D1, Division I offer, and he got $1 million contract for a sporting company in the local area. Can you think about that? Imagine a 15-year-old becoming a millionaire right then and there. Okay? Who's going to help him? If I had $1 million at 15, I'd blow it for sure. So third parties are recognizing this, and they're popping up. So what are these third parties? These third parties are NIL deal companies. So what they're doing is they're saying, hey, we'll help you score deals and make you millions, and you'll pay us a commission in exchange, or we get 20% of the profits. So it's kind of like having an agent for a kid. And then finally, this is creating a huge recruiting war, David versus Goliath. So a lot of states are saying, you know what, we're going to adopt friendly rules, NIL friendly rules, so you can make as much money as possible. Just come play sports in our school or our state, right? California is one of them. But then you get states like Texas and Florida where there's no state income tax. And they say, no, you should come play here. Your earnings won't be taxed at the state level. So it's creating all these different recruiting aspects that you never had to think about before. It's crazy. So what are my future predictions? Well, I think the NIL is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. I think that the majority of the big deals are going to go towards the traditional powerhouse sports, football, basketball. But I think you're going to see a lot of smaller schools, niche markets, niche sports, female athletes, athletes of color. They're going to benefit from this too. They're going to make some money. It creates a level playing field. The other thing I think, is I think that this is going to keep going down to middle school and high school levels. You're going to see this trickle on down to those sports too. And third-party services are going to continue to leverage this to their advantage because it's a business model for them. And I think this is going to result in intensified recruiting efforts among the states, the schools, the boosters, and eventually they're going to make a push for federal regulation. A lot of states in smaller areas, think about Wyoming, for example. It's a low population state. They might say, hey, this is unfair. They're going to work with the NCAA, push for federal regulation to make it blanket and even. And so what does all this mean for advisors? Well, advisors can demonstrate value to this new niche, okay? They can work with these athletes directly. And one unique thing is recruiting rules do not apply to advisors. So take, for example, a college coach cannot go prospect a high school athlete that's not in their junior year, right? That doesn't apply to us. So if you're a smart advisor, you might say, hey, there's a tournament over there. There's a lot of kids that might be millionaires. I'm going to go there. I'm going to find their parents. I'm going to strike up a relationship, right? And you might think if your practice is big enough, you form a marketing sector of your practice, and that's their job, to go find those athletes, to go market to them, bring them into the business, and then have your advisors take it from there, establish that relationship. Now, let's say you don't want to do that. But maybe you have parents that you work with, and the parents have kids that are going to college education planning. Very important. But this kid's also an athlete. Could make a lot of money. Establish that relationship. Get in early. And eventually, as we all know, the wealth is going to go from baby boomers down to millennials and Gen Zers. Keep that wealth in your practice. And finally, I think this is also a value add for advisors who maybe want to work with a school. Say you don't want to work with athletes directly, but you go to a school and say, hey, I'll help your athletes financially, financial planning. You pay me a retainer fee, say $100,000 a year, something like that. I'm just throwing out numbers. So as you can see, an advisor, they have the opportunity to work with the athletes themselves, the parents, and the schools.